Okay, hi, my name is Milorad, and we're going to be discussing the changes in Dominion 6 to LA Marignon, right? Um, Marignon was one of my favorite nations in Dominion 5. I think they were very complicated to play, kind of high skill cap. Dominion 6 changes them quite a bit. It's almost like a new faction. You open this screen for your first time and you're like, what the hell am I looking at, right? Like, is this a mod nation? Like, look at the commanders, like twice the size of the units. This is crazy. Like if you ever played Dominions Enhanced um, for Dominions 5, like a late age Pythium, they have so many mages. Like this is what it looks like, right? Um, so I was kind of surprised. I think a lot of focus was on the new nations and new mechanics, and people didn't know about this, or at least I didn't. So there's a lot new stuff. We're gonna start discussing the changes to the existing commanders and units, and then move on to the new stuff. Kind of break it up, um, and kind of the new spells and their national spells, and maybe some very light discussion of possible new uh, pretender builds. Like I'm not talking about a full strategic overview. This is supposed to be a video discussing the changes, right? And the implications of those changes, not like every possible build, right? Okay, let's get to it. So first, Dominions 5, like they were known, LA Marignon, for having like the worst starting army in late age, maybe the worst in any age. Well, no, I think some of the monkeys have worse, but so they were like terrible. Like you would get 15 of these city guard. Like what are you gonna do with this? 7 attack? Come on, and you would get 10 crossbows. It was terrible. Um, so what you get now, um, it's a little bit better. So okay, so ignore the flagellants because I added those. But you get city guard and crossbows, but you also get 15 pikemen, right? But they're put on this guy, so he's my prophet, but ignore that. But he only has 75 leadership, so he can't make rows with 3 squads, and so they all get a -1 to their morale because they have too many guys in different squads, right? Um, so you could mix the pikemen with the city guard, but then like it drags down the morale of the pikes as well, right? So that's like a new army. It's not much of a change. I think it's still hard from my other game I was playing to expand because um, yes, your army is bigger, but the independent population guys are also harder, so it's harder to expand still, in my opinion. One thing that helps you with expansion is this new commander. So, like in Middle Age, they get a new commander called the Falcon, Falconeer. So he like free spawn at the beginning of the battle, like the retinue, the Falcons, like Naba, right? But in the late age, for thematic reasons, it's now imps. Um, so he does a 1d6 imp pets. Like this is an imp pet. It's different than imp you get with summon or lifelong protection, right? Because that imp is size 2, it has different stats. These are size 1 with much worse stats, right? A very low HP, but they have a high defense, right? And they have a dive attack, which has a very high attack but low damage, and a claw. The funny thing is that for version 6.0, the release version, he had no claw, so after his dive attack, he'd just sit there. But they added the claw in 6.01. So, like, they're not very good. Like, watch what happens. They're gonna fly forward. Okay, so, like, they almost all immediately die. Um, but, Ichthyids are kind of like a high HP. Like they're too tough for these guys to kill. But if you had a unprotected mages or like a low defense, a low armor archer, they could maybe kill them, right? Or like seriously wound them. But even if they don't, like they kind of slow down the enemy advance because it forces them to kill them and breaks up the formation, and it makes it more time for your crossbows to shoot them. Um, I think as the game goes on, you will discover that these are less useful. But if you remember from the, let's look at it again. Uh, from the first turn, you see how they all expand, or not expand, but they all spawn in the same square. So because they are size 1, they all spawn, I believe, in the same square as the Imp Trainer. So this is uh, 24 HP plus the 10 from him, that's 34. So if you have a Astral Mage nearby, he can do a Body Ethereal, which is only range 5, and he should preferentially target this square because of all the combined HP. These, if you put a Body Ethereal on them, it'll increase their survivability so they can like clog up the enemy longer, right? But I think as the game goes on, you will not use these, but they kind of help with expansion, sort of, right? So like, we win this battle, but there's retreat and everything because city guard are trash. It's a whole mess, right? Okay, so let's go back to the overview. Okay. All right, so we talked about starting army and we talked about this guy, Imp Trainer, who's new. But let's go to the existing. I want to go back to the existing commanders and how they're different, right? Okay, so Chartmaker. You open this and you're like, oh, look at all these new mages for Marignon, and you could possibly completely ignore and pass this over. But Chartmaker is much better now. So like in Dominions 5, he was a 1 air with the random, and it wasn't very useful because you could get a 1 air 1 water. What are you going to do with that, right? Now he's 1 astral base and then has a random. So much better. So like, just like we were talking about with the imps, they can do point buff with cheat fate or body ethereal, and like if you put point buffs on a royal guard, like body ethereal or cheat fate, makes them so much better. These are like very good scales troops, so like with the body ethereal they're even better, right? Okay, so that's one use for him, and now he can communion reliably, right? So like astral air is great, astral water is good because of another mage we have, we'll talk about it, and then astral earth is like something he could not do in Dominions 5. So now like astral earth, they can communion to do gifts of heaven if you want to, right? You could not do that easily in Dominions 5. I don't believe you had to Sabbath. Oh no, you can't, because you couldn't even do it with the Sabbath because you need the astral crosspath. So now you can do gifts of heaven if you want to, right? Okay. This guy. So Royal Navigator. He is in Dominions 5 was out of your capital only. Now he is out of any coastal fort, right? So this is a big change because this is a very useful mage for sailing. The Chartmaker also has sailing. So like, one of the advantages of Marignon is they have sailing for utility, and they have slow troops, so you can like move all your guys around with sailing, but most of your mages can't sail. Only the Chartmaker and the Royal Navigator, right? So and he has leadership, so you don't even need like a regular commander, but you have good where is he? Admiral has 100 leadership and he can sail, right? And then this guy can also sail, right? Anyway, so I want to bring to attention like a video that not everybody maybe knows. I'm going to put it in the description. This guy named Zeb Blogzian, I don't know how you pronounce it, But he sounds drunk the whole video, so it's kind of hard to follow. He kind of sounds like somebody else called the HP Munchcraft. I kind of wonder if they're the same person. But anyway, he proposes that you can play Marignon as a cold nation, and no one will expect it, right? Like, so everyone thinks, fire, blood, they're gonna be. That's what Marignon does, right? They're gonna be a heat nation. But his argument was in the video, which was kind of unique, was that these guys can do freezing mist, right? So like, um, one second. Um, okay, evocation 3. Uh, Not many nations can do freezing mist, right? Because it has the weird crosspaths and a high water requirement. So in Dominions 5, this was a good spell. I know they changed clouds a little bit, but I have no reason to believe this would not be a good spell, right? So you could do with a booster or in a communion, the Royal Navigator who randoms water can cast freezing mist reliably. And his argument was if you put a cold resistance on the flagellants and the Hand of Justice, they can kind of sit and like bathe in the freezing mist, and all your enemies go to sleep, right? Um, Obviously, like they might be better strategies, but it's something you could do. It might throw your opponents off guard, right? And then now that's even more viable strategy if you wanted to, because these are out of every fort or every coastal fort instead of just your capital, so you can get more of them. And now they can reliably communion with Chartmaker. So 1 and 3 will be water, and he can support a communion of a Royal Navigator, right? Also air, right? So like these guys, if they get air too, like you can do a lot of big air spells for combat. You can do wind guide. You have now a spell that gives you far shot, so like your crossbows even have longer range if you want to. Of course, air elemental, even though they're kind of worse in Dominions 5 or 6. I mean, you can do that. So like, you don't have to use the new Glamour mages just because you see them. You can like, and people might be expecting you to. You can stick with like the old guys that got improved, right? So that's one thing that's changed. Okay. Now, before we talk about the new mages, I want to talk about the new unit and get that out of the way. So you have a new. All of these guys are the same except for this one. So this is a new unit, deliverer of justice. So he's like a sacred crossbow. So like, there's not that many sacred ranged units to begin with. So he is like a better version of a crossbow, has more precision, slightly better in melee, more protection. But the real thing is that he's the sacred. So you can do like weapon blesses if you want to. I tested it with like cold weapons or freezing weapons, whatever they're called, and like it was underwhelming. And I think that like you need stuff that will go with your flagellants if you're going to use your flagellants. And like there are not that many blesses that will work equally well on a flagellant and on a ranged archer, right? But we'll kind of talk about some possibilities. Interesting. Whether you should use him over the Hand of Justice, I don't know. He was changed slightly. In Dominions 5, he had a smaller armor and more map move. So now he's slower, but has more armor. Okay, so let's talk about the new mages. So you are now a Glamour nation. Did Marignon need Glamour? I don't know, but we have it, right? So like, Hall of Mirrors is a new cap site. It gives you Glamour Pearl, and you can scry. And this guy, right? So Master of Mirrors. So now you have a Master of Mirrors in your capital, and then Mirror Mage in every fort, right? So you are a solid Glamour nation, right? But you have so much now competing for your capital. Like, look at this. Like, you have a, let's ignore the mundane guys, architect and admiral, but that still matters too. But you have a Royal Alchemist, which is new, and then you have a High Inquisitor, who's a Holy 3. You have Gothic Master, and you have now this guy, right? So you have like 4 mages and 6 total commanders competing for your attention in the capital, right? So like, how are you gonna pick a direction to go? Like, yes, you have diversity, which is good, but like, it's kind of hard to try to do everything at once, right? Like, can you do blood and fire and also do glamour and also do um, the new spells with the Royal Alchemist, right? Like, they're in different schools. It's kind of hard to focus on everything. So you may want to kind of decide which way you want to go. Now, at the beginning of the game, right? So like, but it's interesting too because it throws off your opponents because they don't know necessarily which direction you're going to be going. Because now Marignon has like so many options to it, right? With the mages. So anyway, back to the glamour. So okay, so all these guys are at least glamour 1, and then they have fire, air, earth, and astral, right? And so astral is obviously the best of these because he can communion to give higher paths of glamour. Like there's a new spell. Okay, in alteration, under 5, you have Twilight. So what Twilight does is it's an enchantment like Light to the Northern Star. It gives all like the Twilight mages more paths, right? No, sorry, all of the Glamour mages more paths, right? So like 2 of those guys in 3 of those guys in a communion. Now the master is Glamour 2, and with a Glamour Pearl, he can cast this, and all the Glamour mages are now higher, right? So then you can cast like very large Glamour spells with that guy, right? Now, so these other paths are not as useful at the low pass that they are, but we will talk about some of them. So for example, okay, whoops, Thaumaturgy has sorry, not Thaumaturgy, Enchantment has the Splendor, right? Okay, so Shroud of Splendor and Gift of Splendor. Oh, this is okay. Never mind. You needed 2. Okay, so this is still relevant to Marignon because you have these paths on your higher mage, but the smaller one cannot do that. Oh, I know what they can do. Okay, so under alteration, all of them, regardless of crosspath, can give a blur to your troops for point buffing. So that reduces a incoming attack by 2. That's useful. And under evocation, they have a warrior illusion, right? So in Dominions 5, you had the Air 1 spell that made the artificial troop, the illusion, who was ethereal, right? So like in last year's tournament, the Marignon player did a very cool expansion against a hard independent when he had Chartmakers who are Air 1 standing behind a row of crossbows, and they were casting the illusion, and it tied up all the heavy cavalry who could not easily hit the illusion, right? So then they were all shot to pieces by the crossbows at close range, right? It was very impressive. Everyone was like, ooh, wah, wah, right? So now, like, you can't do that with air, but you can still do it with illusions, right? With the um, glamour, right? Um, so that's what he can do with Glamour 1. Um, let's see. Uh, Bewitching Light. So this is area of effect stun, who doesn't affect friendly units. This is also useful because then in melee they can kind of paint the front lines that are clashing without affecting your guys, right? So also useful, right? Um, Now the Earth crosspath is important. Um, where is it? Glamour here, cave, kobolds. So let's switch to the mod inspector. Um, okay, here we go. Sorry, I had the technical difficulties. Okay, so um, here we go. So I wanted to talk about the cave kobold. Okay, so all of your crosspath mages with glamour and earth can make these. This is a new ritual spell. So you know, like, what does it get you? Like size 2, so 5 in a square of these guys. So they do have a magic weapon if you need it, but like they're not good in combat. So what their real utility is that they give a siege bonus. So like 5 of them will give you 50, which is more than what the architect gives you. And they're stealthy, so they can like hide without fighting, whereas the architect is like very vulnerable to being killed because he's just like an old man with no abilities, right? So they can literally help you bring down enemy fort very quickly. Um, so they're very much worth building. Um, okay, so because I was having some issues with my recorder, let's just leave this open. I know we're kind of jumping around, and I apologize, but like I want to talk about these others spells. Okay. Okay. So Phantasmal Warrior. This is different than the illusion, right? Because this is an actual unit, has like HP, armor, everything, right? And you get this out of these spells. There's also knights. Um, Phantasmal. Okay, so there's like a wolf. Uh, there's a knight, right? So like your glamour mages can cast these, and these are ethereal and like they cast during battle, so like they can be a blocking unit in similar way to the illusions, but they're even better because they have HP and stuff, right? Okay, so now since we have this open, let's look here at some of the spells, right, that are new. So Mirror Walk is unique to Marignon. It's a teleport, but just for Glamour Astral Crosspath, right? So your smaller recruit anywhere, if he can do it, and the capital can also do it if he gets Astral, right? And it's cheap. So it's a utility spell in Thaumaturgy. Then you have 4 new spells, and since we're in the mod inspector, I'm gonna um, open up this and get sorry, 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. So Royal Alchemist, and we'll go back to the spells. All right. Okay, so this is a new capital mage and only, and he has these pass and then has a random, right? So before we even talk about the spells, like with the Earth 2, 1 in 5 is Earth 2, and now you can make boots. Before you could not do that easily because the only Earth you got was on the Gothic guys as a random, but then you only got Earth 1, right? Um, and now, with the boots and if one of them gets a 2 Earth, he can make boots. If one of them gets 2 Astral, that one can wear the boots and he can make the Astral booster, right? Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the spells now, right? So there's these amalgamation spells that only he can cast. Because if you look at it, it says here, uh, only cast by Royal Alchemist, right? But some of these are going to be very hard for him to cast, right? So like the easy ones are Earth and Flesh, because 1 in 5 will have a Earth, and he already has Astral. And then Fire and Flesh, 1 in 5 will have Fire, and he already has Fire 1, right? The other two are much harder. So like he can get 1 Water, 1 Astral, but then he needs a booster. Same with the Air. He can get 1 Air on the random, but then he needs a booster. And like this is even harder because like a water booster is relatively easy. But you need to have 4 air on your god to build a helmet. Is like even worth it? I don't know. Okay, so these are the new spells. So they make these like magically enhanced humans, but they don't have a magic unit tag. If you play a Path of Exile, this reminds me of the Vow people, where they were like sticking gems in humans to make them like monsters. Like this is almost like that. It's like if you read the flavored lore text, it's very dark stuff going on. Yeah. So anyway, I don't think these are very good for their price, right? So like let's say this one, right? This is an easy one to cast for them, but you're getting like each of these costs 2 Earth. Like, what does he have that's special? No magic weapon, no abilities, like high armor, but so does your Royal Guard. Like high HP, sure, but like, no, I don't think this is a good unit. Maybe someone will come up with something that I don't know, but like for the price, I don't think this is worth it. Um, okay, and then this one, fire, a little bit different because fire gems are like a little bit less valuable. He has a resist fire, so he can stand in explosions in fireballs and stuff, and he explodes on death. So like this is very dangerous to use with your regular troops. Um, these guys will resist each other's explosions, but they will blow up your regular troops. Now, if your flagellants have fire resist, they can stand with them. But flagellants suck, so like this guy blowing up next to them is not going to really help them that much. And then you're getting value out of him dying, so like you're throwing away gems when you could just be like, I don't know, cast a fire elemental. He would do the same thing, if not better, right? Again, I don't think it's worth it. It's kind of flavorful, but I don't think it's worth it. This one is interesting, the water, because he's amphibious, so you can go underwater without the items. Um, but you need a booster. So like you have to get to at least construction 5. Is it now? However they do it, yeah, 5 to get the robe, and like then you're getting these out like in the point where they're less useful. But he does have a magic weapon, so maybe you could use these. Um, Air is probably the most interesting, but also the hardest to cast, right? So this guy's ethereal, but has protection. He has a magic weapon that does Like he's like the ghost and Therados. So like this is probably the best one, but it's also the hardest to cast. So not very useful in my opinion. It's kind of interesting, flavorful, but like how much are you going to actually see this? I don't know. I think some of these prices should be brought down, or change the pass to make it easier to cast earlier. Um, as you can see from the rest of this, there's nothing new. All these other spells already existed, so we're not going to talk about them. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the game. Okay, sorry about that. Oops. Okay. I want to still talk about Master of Mirrors because there's more glamour I want to go over that we didn't get to talk about, right? Um, okay, so two glamour is like on its own good, and then you have all these cross paths, and you could theoretically get three, but like very unlikely, like 1 in 5 times 1 in 10, like forget about it, right? So anyway, um, so two glamour on its own is useful, um, and you really want to get the astral to a communion to get even bigger, right? So like this guy with the astral can in a communion easily cast Twilight, and now he's astral 4, right? Um, so like let's look at some of the glamour spells that I highlighted. This is obviously not all of them. Um, okay, so like the air random, he can now do with the Twilight up. He can do where is it? Oh yeah, so like Wailing Winds has been changed from a death spell to a glamour, so he can do that. Um, and then False Horror has been changed from air, so they can cast these. Okay. And then under oh yes, still under evocation, they have a area of effect cloud. Okay, so this is a sleep cloud that used to be in nature, is now in glamour and air. Um, so like the air random even can cast this, and you know it affects everybody. So you could put an undreaming on your flagellants if you wanted to as a bless, but like so they could just kind of sit and bathe in the cloud, and most of them will stay awake, and the enemies might fall asleep, and then the flagellants actually have a chance of hitting them, right? Because the flagellants have trash stats. Um, okay, and then ephemeral blast. This is like a fireball for false damage. Like look at the area of effect. Like it's huge, right? Very good range. Um, with Twilight up, all of these guys can do it, or in a communion they can do it. Um, okay, and then let's see what else I wrote down. Okay, so in enchantment, Gift of Splendor, the fire randoms can do Gift of Splendor and put point buff all on your troops if they want to. So like on elites, this might not be bad. Um, okay. Um, oh yeah. Under Thaumaturgy, you can do there's luck, right? So like if you remember, like luck used to be an astral, and it was useful on Marignon because you had access to astral mages, and you could put luck on your um, strong troops like Royal Guard, right? So now there's no more luck in astral, but you have it in glamour, so you do not lose access to luck. Um, so you have here like a group luck. You can put this on your flagellants if you want to, and then they have a utility of not dying, because like almost everything that hits flagellants will kill them, right? So with the luck, 75% will miss. So they can sit there and just tank with luck, a much better unit, and upset your opponent and give your chance to like shoot the guy with crossbows or spells, right? Um, so luck is still accessible to your nation. Okay. Um, Rituals that I wanted to talk about. I should have talked about this when I had the mod inspector open. Um, so a blue cap. Um, what this does is it gives you access to 2 earth, 1 glamour mage, right? So all of your masters who random earth can now cast this and get a blue cap, um, who will have higher earth. If you want like an earth mage to go out in the battlefield, if you don't want to use your royal architects, and he's a stealthy, right? Okay, and then the gnome, um, gnome here. Okay, so what this does is it gives you glamour 2, earth 2, nature 2, gnome. Um, so if you put a earth boots on a master of mirrors who randoms earth, he can make this, and now you have broken yourself into nature, right? Because previously um, your only access to nature was 20% random on the plague doctor, right? So now you can have a nature 2, and you can make a fizzle mace, and the doctor who randoms or like an independent can now carry the Thizzle Mace and cast a nature 2 spells, right? Okay, and then let's see. Oh yes. Um, so this is now a spell that's not talking about glamour, but your nation can cast it pretty easily. Is Hidden Flame. This is new. Fire Astral Crosspath. So like anybody who has a Fire Astral, which has several options in your nation, they can cast a Phoenix Power or in Communion, and they can cast this. Um, this seems to be a very powerful spell. I haven't used it yet, but like we can just look at it from AOE 1, very high damage, armor negating, but only affects magic beings, right? So what this is, and then it has this area of effect, but this is a way to like get rid of elementals if they're harassing you, right? So like let's say hypothetically somebody is trying to trample your lines with the air elemental. Um, they could basically like almost instant kill with this, or not instant kill, but like reduce it in size. Maybe that's not the best example, but I can think of other uses maybe if I had time to think about it better. But this is a utility that you did not have before. This is a new spell, right? Okay. Um, so I want to briefly talk about the new blesses and some thoughts for your nation. I'm going to exit out of this and go to Creative Pretender. Okay, so this is a thought that I thought of as two paths that kind of intersect here. Okay, so with the changes in the bless system, this is now possible. Well, this is a new spell, but like this is a possible bless because of how the bless system changed, right? So you have access to the Baphomet, right? And you can do this without completely trashing your scales, and he's dormant. So you have a. This is meant for your primarily for your flagellants, right? So like this gives flagellants value by existing. They don't have to worry about their terrible attack score. They don't have to worry about hitting anything. Just by standing around, they have value, right? So ethereal, similar to luck, I mean less useful because it doesn't stop magic damage, but not everything's gonna, most things don't have magic weapons, and a lot of mundane troops are more important now in Dom 6. So Ethereal will give them more survivability, and then Unbearable Splendor is crazy. Um, Anyone who hits the Flagellant has to, or tries to hit the Flagellant, has to do a MR check against 11, or they go blind. And blind is -9, -9. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Illwinter changes or nerfs this, because the blind is permanent. And I tried this with a middle-age Marignon game, and he was so sick on the knights. It was disgusting. But even flagellants, like the flagellants, kind of you toss them in front, and the enemy, they get all blinded trying to kill the flagellants who are ethereal. And then when -9 to the defense, maybe the flagellants can actually hit something, but that's not their goal. Like, Flagellant is terrible. Like an attack skill 9, he could probably still miss even with the opponent having a 9-point drop in their defense. But the flagellants there are just to debuff the enemy, so then your other troops can kill them easier. And then it makes it harder to raid you, because you can make flagellants out of any province with the temple, so you can get them like ungodly number of flagellants if you want to. And like, yes, not every sacred or thug is going to fail a MR check versus 11, but if you have a bunch of flagellants around them, eventually they will probably fail it, and they only need to fail it once. And then they go blind. So this is a possibility. Of course, with this bless, you have to expand without a bless, right? And that can be hard. I'm going to put in the comments a video that Zan did for Dominions 5 on how to expand with no bless. I don't know how much of it will still be relevant for 6, but you might learn something, so I recommend it. He's like a good player and YouTuber. Okay, so that was one thing I did. Here's another one. So this is luck. Oh, I should go back real quick. So like, what else is good about this is he can make a fire booster. He can cast the demon lords, right? If you go down blood. And with the Astral 8, he can make the rings of wizardry and sorcery, right? So this is not just a meme bless, but like he can also do like boosters and high level spells if he needs to, right? Okay, so this one also like maybe a meme bless, but he has a very high glamour, which is relevant when you have a glamour on your mages now. Okay, so the idea behind this one, again, dormant, you're not trashing your scales. What you're doing here is you're giving luck, which is now a glamour bless, to your flagellants. So this is even better than ethereal, because like nothing negates this except fate weaving, right? But like, who's gonna have fate weaving on all their troops, right? Like, very rare. So now 75% of all attacks, magic or otherwise, will not kill the flagellants, so they can just stick around. And then slowing weapons is, I mean, you could do other things, but I think this is a useful use of water for bless. Because if they hit somebody, they don't have to do any damage, right? But if they hit somebody, they will do a MR check against 16, which is like very high, to slow them for the rest of the battle, right? So slow does a half movement speed, -2 attack, -2 defense, right? So the idea here, again, is to toss the flagellants in front. Those that don't die because of the luck, if there's enough of them, maybe they'll hit the enemy. And then they're debuffing the enemy, right? Again, the goal of the flagellants is not to kill anything. They're going to be doing debuffs, and with 2 attacks each, because the flail they have has 2 attacks, you have a decent chance of applying slowing weapons to your enemy, and it's for the rest of the battle. So the flagellants there are like a debuff cannon, and then your other troops come in, and it's easier for them now to fight, right? Um, and the cold resistance was here because I had like an extra point. So now you can do that thing we talked about earlier that the other video Zeb did was talking about with the Royal Navigator, right? So they can do freezing mist. Your flagellants are just sitting there bathing in the mist. Everyone's getting frozen. They're fine. They're lucky. They're hitting guys double times with their slowing weapons. It's just like, again, some of this is theory crafting. Obviously I haven't played this in a multiplayer competitive, but I can see utility here for your flagellants to actually do something. Um, both of these blesses make use of your flagellants, but also make your hand of justice and the other guy who's sacred even better. Obviously, there's so many other blesses I have not considered, but these are two things that I thought were cool with the new blesses that give value to your flagellants. Okay, let's just briefly, I don't want to go on forever. I just want to briefly look at some other ones that maybe I didn't build that has some value to them maybe. Okay, so I'm going to hit B and I can look at all the bless effects. All right. Righteous Wrath is interesting. This is like custom made, I swear, for MA Marignon, not late age. Because when a sacred is killed, it gives other sacreds near it +3/+3, like almost like Blood Surge. But like you're getting value from them dying. So like in MA, this is great because you throw your flagellants like in a wave with knights behind them, and every flagellant who dies will give your knights. It doesn't stack, but still, your knights get like Blood Surge. It's crazy. You could even stack it with Blood Surge. So now you +6/+6, which is crazy. But you're getting value from things dying. In late age, it's less useful because like, let's say you put a Righteous Wrath on your flagellants and you throw them forward and like one of them dies and all his fellows, his comrades are getting like, okay, +3, but the flagellant is trash, so like +3 is not going to make him better. It's going to make him less shit, right? So like I don't think it's really useful on late age, but this is, I swear, made specifically for middle-aged Marignon, right? So that was one thing you could consider. Death Explosion, from everyone knows that from Dominions 5. But again, you're getting value out of them dying. I don't know if it's really useful. So I tried vitriol weapons on the archers because they're sacred, and it was very underwhelming. Like, yeah, like 7 AP acid damage, but like things have so much protection that it was like way less exciting than I thought it would be. Same with Frost Mist weapons. I was not impressed with either of those because like Frost Mist weapons, if you had a sacred archer out of every fort, then it would make enough of a cloud to simulate freezing mist, right? But like you're only gonna have some, so like not gonna make enough of a mist with their arrows to make any difference, right? And the flagellants, like maybe if you pair this with a cold resistance and like luck to keep them alive, maybe they can make enough of a cloud, because it doesn't require damage to generate the cloud, right? But you need something to keep the flagellants alive, because if you just give them this, they're going to be completely destroyed and they won't be able to make the cloud with their weapons, right? So you need something to keep them alive, like ethereal or luck, right? But yeah, I wasn't, like there's new like vampiric weapons, but again, like flagellants are trash. Like you're not gonna waste all these points on them. Same with displacement. Like, oh, okay, so the attacking unit has a -5 on their roll, but a flagellant has 6 defense. So like, it's not gonna matter. You're just bringing him up to what a regular human infantry is without any stats, right? Like just a 10-10. And Dread, like, okay, you have a ton of flagellants doing fear, but again, like, they're not survivable without something else. So they're gonna die super quick before the fear procs, right? So you need to give them something that before you can say justify putting Dread on them, right? Um, okay, so I don't want to talk forever. Um, these are my thoughts. I'm excited to play them in a multiplayer game. Lots of different avenues to go. If you have any other thoughts on Marignon, please comment and give me other thoughts. Thanks.